I heard you like aliens.
Where'd you hear that?
You like aliens?
Okay, so maybe a little bit. I like the atmosphere. I like stars. I like astrological, and so my husband got me into Star Trek, and that kind of just like kicked off
Your interest in aliens?
Yeah, so it's, if you get on the subject, I think my husband would talk for hours, but I've always just sat back and listened and, just kind of been interested. But
I was watching Joe Rogan, and he was talking to, was it Theo Vaughn? He was talking to someone. He said some scientist or Neil Tyson deGrasse or whatever said something about like infinity is so big that there's another Amber out there that has had the same exact life as you, had the same conversations down to like that pause right there, like the exact. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't know. I don't think there's another. I mean, I think there's aliens. I think there's other life forms. Astrobiology, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. Well, there's like, I mean, I don't sit and like research and stuff, but I know there's like things out there where it is scientific based evidence, or people have researched that there are other lives or other beings and things like that. And it's funny that's
so you think you want to quit your job and try to be an astronaut?
No.
Yeah.
Probably not. That's not in the stars for me.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Well, so we got Amber on the podcast today. I was told by different people that I should probably start doing like a, I don't know, hard intro. So she's a dispatcher. So if you call 911 because you take, too many penis enlargement pills or you drink too much, she's probably going to be the person that answers the phone. Or obviously, I didn't realize, you were telling me like how often people call 911 for like the most silliest thing. Like
the dumbest stuff. And I hate to say that because like ultimately at the end of the day, my job is to serve the community, and I love serving the community. But I don't want you to call me to figure out how to change a battery on a smoke detector. Like, that's not something you call 911 for.
Damn, you've had people call you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. My funniest call is probably someone that clogged their toilet. It was the funniest call I've ever had.
What did they want? What do they want you to walk them through, or do they want you to send out like?
They want us to send people, but they really think that we are officers. So they call in, they're like, you have to come, you have to do this, you need to send these people. And we're like, we're just dispatchers, like we'll send the proper response. But yeah, and I hate saying that we're just dispatchers because we do a lot. For
sure. No, yeah. I mean, listen, and then you were the dispatcher for the Greenwood Park Mall shooting that happened. So we can get into that. But you worked in corrections before this.
Yeah.
I just found that out. Man, for 7 years.
Yeah, so I did a small portion in a state prison here in Indiana. Sorry. And then I did... Yeah, and then I did another in county jail. So I did like 3 or 4 years in county jail. So
I have a weird confession. It's not a weird confession because obviously you have like these shows where it's like 60 days in. And man, I used to binge watch Lockdown Raw on YouTube. Like I would watch like...
Or Scared Straight.
Well, yeah. So man, the old one like in the 70s, that was, those guys. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah.
But prison culture is fascinating to me. And like there's a lot of prison YouTubers out there now, like prison channels. The good news is with them is they are trying to steer young guys away from that life. They tell them like, listen, imagine living in your bathroom. You have your sink, your sink and toilet are connected. You got bunk beds right there. If your cellmate has to get up in the middle of the night and take a dump, you're right there. And it's just like, there's no privacy, there's no freedom, and the stuff that you're doing to go to prison, it's not worth it. So it's like a lot of the channels are positive. I don't know of any. I wouldn't watch any that are just like promoting it. I don't think there are, but it's interesting. But how was working at the prison?
Well, I was young, and
you started when you were 21, right?
21. As soon as I could apply, I applied, and I got the job. And it humbled me a lot because I went into it thinking I was I had a little chip on my shoulder. I had an attitude. I had I didn't have like a rough upbringing, but I definitely had some trauma in my life. Who doesn't? It's sad, but you move forward and how you handle it and stuff. But like, so I started young, had a chip on my shoulder, and it humbled me. I learned body language. I learned micro expressions on people.
Yeah.
And I take pride in the fact that I was able to, see if an inmate would have drugs, or was just something as simple as taking food from the kitchen, which usually I was just like, dude, come on.
Hey, they got to make them spreads, baby.
Yeah, it's like, I get it. You guys are having Thanksgiving dinner in August, or, so there were a lot of things where it's like, if you were cool with them, then they were cool with
the
you.
scary thing about those
Respect.
guys is you pissed them off 3 months ago. You done forgot about it. You go home, you got kids, or you got a family, you have a life outside of work. That's your job. You're there 8 to 12 hours a day or whatever, and they don't forget.
Yeah. I have some funny stories, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what all you want to know about it, but I have some funny stories on just how I handle things as a correction.
Anything you want to share? I mean, I don't care. I know that it's. I've wanted to get a corrections officer on here.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. Like, I don't know, man. I'm just like, obviously, I was telling you I'm backlogged, and then I had you coming out, and then when you told me that, I'm like, shoot, man, we could do almost like a dual interview. But it was a maximum security prison.
So it was a state prison. I think it was technically was a level 3, if I remember correctly, 2 or 3.
That's rough.
But it's
Well, was it were they were cells, or was it an open bay?
Well, we had both. So like we had like a segregated area, or like a certain area that was locked down 23 hours of the day, things like that. And then we had different dorms or pods where like we had north or south dorm or things like that, and then east and west dorm. But
yeah, that's legit.
Yeah, it was.
Well, let me ask you this: what I Google this stuff sometimes. I'm just bored. I'm like, I remember hearing a story about a guy that had like, there's an old Clint Eastwood movie, Escape from Alcatraz, where it's based on the real story from where they escaped.
Yeah.
Where they chiseled out their grates, the like metal grating in their cells, and escaped that way. But I read a story about a guy that had chiseled out the cinder block, and then he took like paper mache or some kind of construction paper, and like used whiteout, because the cinder block was painted white, and he had like dug out a little like hole in the wall, and he would stick his cell phones in there, and then I remember they were telling they had this like device where they could tell if there was a cell phone, like I think it was the cell reception or something. They could figure out.
Interesting, yeah.
Almost like this little like, you get closer, and they're like, where in the fuck is it? The guards are like, where the fuck is this thing?
Yeah.
And it was hidden in the wall, and he's like, I don't know, man, your machine must be messed up.
Yeah.
But my point with that was they have nothing but time on their hands.
Nothing but time, and that's why I'm like, after a while, you have nothing but time. I'm in there for 12. Yeah, I'm 12 hours there with you, and it's not fun. I can't go outside. I can't leave the facility. I can't go outside, take a break. Like I have to go within the control to eat my lunch or take a break or whatever. And working night shift, it sucked a lot of times, But when my shift would start at 6 p.m., I'd come in and. The first thing you do is count, make sure everybody in your, your dorm is there when they're supposed to be there, because there's like certain times that you have to do counts and stuff. But then you have this little like metal like rod that you take, and it's like magnetic to this like button, and you push it to like check that I was here. I'm doing my rounds. I'm doing my checks, and I was adamant about doing those because so many correction officers get hemmed up because they're not tapping that, and then something happens and it's like, we don't have proof of where you are. I mean, I hate to say this because I'm not like, oh, I'm a woman, but as a female correction officer, I never put myself where a camera wasn't.
No, it's smart.
So if I was in a room, I made the inmate step out. I never went inside a room where an inmate would be in there with me, never, unless there was a male officer with me. So I always made sure I was within camera, because I was young, but I wasn't fucking dumb.
Yeah.
And I the amount of people that were in my class when I first started, because you go through a whole like schooling
Academy.
type, basically. Yeah. There were a couple girls that got hemmed up, messing around with inmates and smuggling drugs in. And
Yep.
I was not about that because ultimately my goal was to be a police officer.
Well, I worked at FedEx Freight with a guy, and I think I was at FedEx Freight for 5 years. This guy may have started the year after me, and I think in 2017. So he'd been there. He started in 24, so he was there for like 3 years, and he was gone for forever. Well, it felt like forever. And he comes back, and he's this big corn-fed guy. I think we called him like Big Country or something. But anyways, he wasn't the smartest guy, but he was a corrections officer, and he got caught smuggling in. I don't think it was like that. I think he was smuggling in like cigarettes, but he wound up getting like hemmed up, and
Yeah, I mean, it's still illegal.
yeah, and these inmates are probably, I mean, I don't know what the going rate is for a cell phone, but I know like
It's a lot.
Corrections officers generally don't get paid a lot, especially if you don't have rank and you're new. It takes time for you to start kind of seeing like, okay, I can actually have a decent lifestyle at this and retire. But I mean, these new COs are seeing, hey, you smuggle in this phone, I'll give you $1,000, or you bring in a little bit of this, and you can easily triple your salary in no time. But it gets. I've heard some wild stories. I'll just say that.
Well, one of my best friends at the time, we hung out outside of work all the time, and there was like a group of like 4 of us that hung out, and one of our close friends we found out was smuggling in drugs, and
She was a CO too, right?
This was a he. He was a male, but yes,
male,
he was a CO. But he got there 2 years before me, so I don't know how long he had been doing it. I was devastated. I saw what it did to his family. Saw what it did to him. Like, I was devastated, and we got investigated. We got questioned about it, and I'm like, I had no idea. And we would talk shit about people who would smuggle drugs in, and he would be right there.
He's sitting right there with
and
you.
I'm like, and so that's what I'm saying. That job humbled me a lot. I was able to read people after, like, it made me like hyper aware almost of like people around you. You can't always trust. Like, you can't always, so it's hard, but.
Man,
No, I loved what I did, and whenever I would go into everybody, all the inmates knew, like, and when I got there, I did count. I let everybody chill for a little bit, and then close to that second count, and towards the beginning of the night, I would do my shakedowns.
Ooh.
And I wouldn't like, I don't want to say target a room, but there was choices in my rooms, because it was like I'd been watching this inmate for a while, or I would, or this person was kind of acting weird, or this person's new, so like, and the rumors are like, if you control the leader of the dorm, you control the dorm.
Yeah.
And 100%, like, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. There,
you take the head off. Bodies follows.
Yeah. And I remember going up to the top, because it was like where I was working at this point. It was a 2-story, so you had to like walk up these weird metal stairs, like creepy. So I get to the top, and I hadn't picked a room at that point because I was like, I don't know. But they know, because I'd start walking, I'd look to see. And so they would know. They're like, oh, at the time with my maiden name, they'd be like, oh, so-and-so is getting ready to do a shakedown. Everybody should, So I would watch who was trying to walk away from me, or turning to avoid me, or not making eye contact with me. It's like body language, like simple body language. And so, there was one guy that I was like, all right, it was like the corner room, and my sergeant was with me. And, man, this sergeant specifically, I learned so much from, and, I'll never forget it. He was like, how about we do this room? And I was like, all right. And I was still kind of newer, so I was watching, and the guy put on his shoes, and I looked at my sergeant. I was like,
something in his
why
shoes.
Why would he put his shoes on to just step outside the room?
Yep.
So it clicked, and my sergeant was like, yeah, why would he put his shoes on?
Yeah.
So he goes, hey, tell him to take his shoes off. And so, like I said, I was young, I was new, so I was like, it clicked with me. So I was kind of proud of myself on that. But so anyways, he took his shoes off, and we searched the tongue and the inside foam of the shoes. It was all drugs.
Damn.
All drugs. Yeah. I'll never forget that, because then he had a roommate at that time too. He had a roommate, and he was trying to put it on his roommate. Like, those are my roommate's shoes. And I had to make a statement and write a report and everything. And my report was like, no, he put those shoes on. Those were his shoes, And I actually ended up running into his roommate outside of prison.
Oh God.
And I was eating food at a restaurant in, oh my gosh, it wasn't even near. It was like 2 hours away from the prison. Like, not even near where.
Well, I was going to say that some of these prisons are way out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when they get obviously released, they're going back to whatever community they came from.
Right.
So it was just incidental that he was.
Yeah. No, but he came up and he shook my hand and he was like, thanks to you, I didn't end up getting like more time, because like, that had been like his last strike. And I'm like, well, you were just there. You just happened to be his roommate. All I did was tell the truth. And that's why, like, I was telling you earlier, like, the truth literally means
he wound up getting more time.
He was going to, because his roommate was trying to.
I thought you said he shook your hand and said, because of you, I got more time.
No, he's like, because of you, I didn't get more time.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And he's like, do you remember me? And at the, I'm not good with names, but I'm good with faces. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but I do remember your face. And, but he was like, no, thank you. So, things like that. And
it's a hard job too, because you have to balance so many different things, and then you have to, you have to be fair, but at the same time, if you're too rigid, like like I was mentioning earlier, 3-6 months later, you're just beat bopping on the tier, and there was a guy that I met who has one eye. I think the inmate, the dude was around the corner with a piece. He had broken off a piece of iron out of his light fixture, like a bracket, and he wound up stabbing the CO in the eye when he went around the corner.
Dang.
And just right in the eye, because several weeks or months prior to that, he
pissed him off.
Because it's like, I've read like they can only have so many pairs of clothes. They can't have too much canteen in their locker. They can't have I don't know. I kind of wish I could go back in time and be a CO just for the experience, because
it's definitely a different world.
Some of the stories and just the it's just the environment of like, now you can go on YouTube and watch. You can watch like cell phone video. This dude is like cooking fajitas in his cell.
The food, I don't even know how they do it. And like now we have TikTok, and like people are getting out of jail, prison, whatever, and they're like, their TikTok is based on like, when I was in jail, I made this, and I'm like fascinated, because I'm like, they can make so much out of just noodles. Yeah, there was a guy.
Oh yeah, there was a guy that one of the podcasts he was talking about. They make cheesecake out of coffee creamer. And he said, dude, this cheesecake will rival anything that you go to the Cheesecake Factory or some higher end restaurant and get. He's like, it's probably better. And then he's Matt Cox, Inside True Crimes podcast. His cousin was already at the prison, and Matt got there and he met his cousin, and his cousin was pickling eggs in a trash can. And Matt's like, I'm not eating that shit. And he's like, dude, I'm telling you, it'd be the best pickled eggs.
Wow.
And he finally, after eating in the chow hall for a little bit, and he's like, let me try some of those eggs. And he said, dude, they were the best. Like,
I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's just, it's the definition of making the most out of what you have. And then, like you said, a lot of it is just, it's just ingenuity and having time on your hands. But so you did that for 7 years. You've been a dispatcher for 6.
Yeah, so November is 6 years for me, so I'll be coming into my 7th year as a dispatcher. But
yeah, I don't know anything about how that works. And you dispatch for different agencies too. It's like you guys like random nights you do different agencies.
Right. So we have like since it's like a smaller area, we have like a city, we have a county, and then we have like our fire, EMS, things like that. So we do
dispatch for all of them.
We dispatch for all of them and answer the phones for the community.
Well, it's different dispatchers for each one, right?
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys basically work in like a hub type thing.
We call it the basement. We're down in the bottom of a random building in the bad part of town.
Not even They could have put you up, like, I don't know. Well, at the end of the day, I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably a safer place. I don't know.
It is. It's a nice building. They had it like built, because before they were like, I think that before we like, because that city and county was split, so they had two different. And so when they merged together, they built the building that we're in, and it's small. It's nice. We made it our own, but ultimately we go downstairs to a basement, and we're concrete walls and.
Damn, it's almost like being in prison again. You must.
Ouch.
You got this. No, I'm just kidding. You said
No,
you said concrete walls. I'm
No,
like,
it's
well,
it's probably dramatic. It's a really nice facility, but
no.
Yeah.
So what kind of like, I guess, what's a normal day of dispatching like? Is it? I feel like it's probably most people, like you were talking about earlier. Does they call in for stuff and you're like, this does not warrant a 911 call?
Absolutely. I would say like 70% of our calls, I'm like, this is why are we sending an officer? Why are we sending, but
Fire department or
our policy states you call 911, we send,
Yeah.
I think the only leeway we have is if you call our non-emergency line, then we can kind of talk to you a little bit and we don't have to send. But if the public requests an officer, we send.
Yeah.
I mean, it stinks because then I feel bad for the officers, and usually I'll message the officers and be like, hey, just, here's a heads up, and it is civil or it's this or that, so I feel bad.
Kind of giving them a, yeah.
Sorry, but we got to send per our policy. So
yeah, that's good. No, I mean, and then when you do have these legit people, because I mean, let's face it, there's a very select few, or very narrow or small number of people that keep their composure when shit hits the fan or they got an emergency. So like, how do you guys handle that when you got someone that's just, I don't know, frantic, or they're calling in like?
Yeah. So it comes with our training. Like we have a pretty extensive training. But staying calm and keeping someone calm is the hardest part of our job. And, it's, at least on the phone side, it's the hardest part of our job. No matter what the call is, whether it is like earlier, I mentioned a clogged toilet or a domestic or, a car accident or things like that, that person is calling on their worst moment of their day.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal to them. Mm-hmm. So even though I'm like, all right, this isn't a big deal, I have to disassociate like the emotional part of it. Mm-hmm. And, I've been able to, like, it comes with experience, but I've been able to disassociate well, going from, all right, we just had a shooting to, all right, this lady's calling in.
My credit card got stolen.
Yeah, it's back-to-back calls. You never know what you're going to get, and you've got to be able to take the emotional side out of it. And even though, like, our fire EMS, our officers, our county units, they're at the forefront. They see this, and they get like kind of everything laid out because it's that's what their job is. They respond, they're on scene, they're seeing all of this. We don't get closure. We don't see it. We're hearing it. And it's just as horrific hearing it as it is seeing it.
I have listened to 911 recordings of different, like on Netflix or something. I'll be listening to something and it's like, God, man, that's a lot to, it's bad to hear. So with the shooting in Greenwood, when did that happen? It's been what, a year and a half, you said?
July 17th.
Okay.
I think it was 2022. Yeah, because it wasn't last year. It was the year
before.
So
it's been 2 years now.
Yeah, it's been 2 years now.
Okay. So how do you I mean, because how many people called in?
Oh, we were so full of 911 calls coming in that it blocked and like sent to our backup agency. So our backup agency was receiving multiple calls, and what was happening is they're like, oh, that's in so-and-so county. So they were transferring it back, and then they were still getting sent back. So it was like a cycle of getting sent back to our backup agency because our phone lines were so packed full. And I know after that situation, like after that whole incident happened, they have been working on getting a better way to like navigate.
I wouldn't even know how to figure out how to do. I mean, because the way I look at it in my simple mind is have 150 dispatchers, but you can't. That's just not feasible.
No,
but
it's not.
So are you when people are calling in, are you just saying, "Hey, listen, we've got officers and route"? I mean, how?
So the way Johnson County Dispatch is set up is, they have different dispatchers running different radios. And it was a Sunday. Of all days, it was a Sunday. And, like, as a dispatcher, we know anything can happen on any day. But Sundays usually don't pop off, right?
Right,
So,
you're kind of in your mind, you're like, I'm going to take it easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, this is going to be an easy day. So
Yeah.
I come in, and we happen to have a trainee. And the FTO
God.
of the trainee, they were supposed to be on his first night on North Radio, which is Greenwood Radio. And so it was going to be his first night as a trainee on Greenwood Radio. But the FTO for some reason was like, hey, I don't know why, but I really think I should put him one more night on county radio. Do you mind switching? And I was like, oh, absolutely. I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So
Yep.
he gets one more night on county, and I ended up taking over North Control. We clock in at, like, for example, it's like 5:37 or something. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a couple years. But I just clocked in 5:30. It was like 5:45, 5:55, something like that. Red across our screen, across our phone screen. It was just all red, all 911. And what happens, like, we have specific people on phones, and then when those people are on the phones, then the next law, which would have been like the lower level, like not big agency law, which they answer the phone, and then county the last person to answer the phone is North Control, because it's the busiest radio. So just because you are working a law radio does not mean you can't answer the phone. So, like, what that would look like is you're getting radio traffic through a side radio, phone is coming through your ear. So you're talking to someone on the phone, but you're communicating with your officers through a different radio. So you have to multitask and multi-listen, I guess you could say, if lack of a better word, multi-listen. Yeah. But so I answered one phone call, and all I hear is this guy screaming. Like, he's like, there's an active shooter at the mall, And I knew at that moment my main focus had to be my officers. You know, at this point I had like 4 years experience as a dispatcher. Mm-hmm. And up until that point, I didn't think I was ever going to stay in dispatch. I was like, this isn't for me. I said if I made it to that 5-year mark, I was in it for life, but I'm not there yet. So maybe I can explore other options. This isn't what I'm meant to do, whatever. But instincts kick in. Your training kicks in. And I got the guy calmed down. I got where he was. He wasn't anywhere near the food court where it happened. So I was like, just, obviously, like, if you can get out, because that's the safest thing to do. If you're not near the shooter, get out, escape, get out.
Get out of there.
Yeah. If you are like a couple stores down from the food court, lock down, barricade, things like that. And so he wasn't anywhere near, so I was like, if you feel safe enough, you can go. He's like, well, we're already locked in so-and-so store. Okay, how many people are with you? And I was writing down, like, so whenever I realized it was at the mall, I pulled up a map on my screen of the Greenwood Mall, because I'm not familiar with the mall. I've only shopped there a couple times. I grew up shopping at a completely different mall. I'm not even from Greenwood. Like, I know nothing about the Greenwood Mall. So I pull up a map because I'm like, I need to know what stores are what, where they're at, what doors are what. Because if officers are like, hey, I'm at door 6, that's what they're looking at. I'm at door 6. Well, I don't know door 6.
Like, where is that?
Is that on the north, south, east, west, southwest? Like, I don't know, So I pulled up a map because I was like, if anybody's going to have information, it's going to be me. So I get off the phone with that guy, and I decided at that point I wasn't going to answer any more calls. And as a dispatcher, you're like, you feel bad because you're putting that on the people in the room. I had like 6 or 7 other people in the room, and they're taking the brunt of it, and they also have to run their radios. But this is happening in my area with the officers that I am in charge of as a dispatcher, and they had to be my focus because I was like, I'll be damned if I lose an officer. Like that was not going to happen. And so I just so happened to have an officer that was doing security that day at the mall.
At the mall?
Mm-hmm.
Like off duty?
I don't remember if he was off duty or if it was part of like a end of shift thing, because he was getting ready to go home.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I just remember he was there, and he's always in my mind. Like, if he ever watches this, like, I just want him to know, like, you were the first person that I was like, all right, I've got you. I will always make sure that this one comes out, because he went in. no shame, went in. He was like, I'm ready, I'm here. And I remember he gets up, he gets to the food court and he tells me over the radio, and I don't know exact wording, obviously, like it's been a couple of years, but he said something along the lines of like, I'll be investigating. I've got 2 DOA, dead on arrival. So my heart sank because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting reports of an active shooter. And then at this point, because it all happened within like 11 seconds, 15 seconds, something like that.
The whole thing?
The whole thing was over in like seconds.
I thought it was a prolonged thing. Okay.
Mm-mm. It was, the whole shooting was over in seconds. Now everything else lasted like 24 hours and
the aftermath was
it was a long shift. I was tired, but
you had to stay for how long was your shift?
12. My shift was scheduled 12 hours, but we were there, and then I stayed a little bit to just make sure everybody was okay with the switch, like transitioning, because like
got to let them down easy.
I had the most information.
Yeah.
And kudos to the director in Johnson County, because he came in immediately and got the mobile command and went out with, and I mean
I don't, I haven't heard anything bad about how it was handled on the law enforcement side, because obviously you got Uvalde where it was just like a massive huge
they were prepared,
spectacle. But no, what was I going to ask you? Yeah, so apparently the shooter had he had a disassembled rifle, and he went into a bathroom and he put this gun together, right? Like a rifle, and then he goes into the food court, and then
he comes out just shooting.
The
first 2 people, and I don't know all the technical details, but I do know like what I've at least known or heard from like the debrief or from information like in the reports and stuff. But he comes out shooting, first 2 people. And then at that point, we're getting reports of a second shooter. And so we thought that we had 2 shooters at the mall. But reality of it is like 50 yards across the food court, a man, not even law enforcement, no military, like I don't know if you've read the reports, just happened to be carrying and shot
the dude from pretty far away with a pistol.
10 shots. Took 10 shots. 8 were fatal. Yeah.
So the guy, he was a kid too. He's pretty young. The guy that shot the shooter, shot him 10 times, or he.
Yeah, 10 shots were fired, 8 were fatal. That was how they
hit him 8.
That was how that's how
damn.
they. Yeah, I mean, from what I read, and fact check if you want, but from what I read, he only had experience shooting with his grandfather. I've never met this guy. As a dispatcher, this was a part of this whole incident, I would have given anything to meet him, because it changed my life. It changed his life. It changed so many people's lives. And
I was talking to a guy about this actually, and he said I sent him a message on Facebook, but he I think he deactivated it or deleted it.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah, he's banned from all Simon malls. They banned him. Yeah, the whole uproar with that was really sad, but. I met David Simon back in. I was a security guard. Oh, really?
And I worked at the convention center in Indianapolis, and I met him. They're like, I don't know if he's a multi-billionaire, but they're billionaires. And he's a weird dude, and I could see like with this anti-gun stuff going on, and it being it's like he probably just thinks of it as, oh well. It's like, dude, I don't know. I don't want to get into politics, but it's also like, man, I mean, at the end of the day, if that's what he feels like he needs to do, hey, whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's probably some thing that they were just like, well, one of his attorneys maybe. Yeah. Because they rarely get involved with anything directly. It's just they're not going to. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess technically there were 2 shooters.
Mm-hmm. That's my thought. But,
the guy that was shooting the shooter was a shooter.
Right.
But, so the aftermath, I mean, what was that like?
Oh, my gosh.
Man, it was, I heard it was just like, I don't know.
It was.
They locked down that entire area.
Yeah, it was hectic. And we were getting so many calls, and everybody was great with getting information. Like I said, I had that map pulled up. So notes were going in so fast that like, as a dispatcher, it's hard to like go back, scroll down. So whenever someone had a call where there was a store with people in it, I wrote it down. how many people were in this store, and then I would look on my map and I would be like, okay, this store is located on this part of the mall. So like I had that information prepared, and at one point like IMPD and like state dispatcher, like they patched into the same radio, so it was like all of us on the same radio, and it got chaotic. And my officers were like, okay, who's talking, who's our dispatch? So it got a little bit chaotic, and that lasted for like a very short time, probably longer than what it should have. But I remember turning to my supervisor and I was like, get them off my radio, because they are making it to where I don't know if these officers are safe. I don't know who's they're addressing me, but this dispatcher might be answering and it's not correct information, and I'm not putting someone else's life in their hands when I have the correct information. So so finally they patched it over, and so it was like IMPD and any other agencies that were responding that was not Greenwood was put on their own frequency, and that cleared up so much. So it was very short, like maybe 15-20 minutes where that they were all on one, and we took care of it. We handled it quickly. So that was where the most chaos came in. And once that happened, I was able to clearly navigate my officers through the mall and help with as much information as they wanted. I'm one of those dispatchers that, like, if you are talking amongst each other, like, I will let you guys talk and I will document the information, because I want the radio to stay clear in case there's an emergency that pops off.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't get on and say, oh, dispatch is clear as well. I don't do that.
Yeah, you were telling me some of the little nuances that I've never thought about and the general public doesn't probably think about, but it definitely it's a huge balancing act. Man, I don't know, it's hats off to you. I mean, it sounds like I was gonna ask you, have you ever seen the Halle Berry movie where she's a dispatcher and there's like a little girl, the call or whatever?
That's better. That is a better, that's a better,
you were like, I'm gonna jump in the action.
Yeah, it's a better like rendition, I guess, of what we actually do. Yeah. But there's a new one out with, is it Jake Gyllenhaal?
That movie was weird.
That is not what dispatch is.
Yeah, he's a cop.
Yeah, and he was like on dispatch duty. That is not.
Yeah, no. Man, man, I was sitting there and I was like, what in the hell is this? Yeah. It is just, even from an unbiased, someone who has never stepped anywhere near law enforcement, or the movie, to me, it just had this weird like feel. Yeah. I didn't like it. I normally, I don't know. I thought it was like I liked it, but it made me upset. I was like, gosh dang it! Like, this is not anywhere near accurate.
Is this what people think dispatchers do? Because this is not what we do. And this is why the public is confused about like whether I was trying to reach so and so officer, is that person, and it's like, this is not, no, this is a central dispatch center. We dispatch for them. And then that's another thing too. The public thinks that we're just going to give officer information out. No, we're not. We're not. Yeah, I was going to
say, I mean, it's people, which, what was I going to say? I mean, people have too much time on their hands, and it all, God, man, I've been wanting to do a segment on this for a while, but it's all coming down to just, we cannot get off on our phone. I'm guilty of it too, but like, you get out here and you watch these videos of, I don't know, and it could be something that has nothing to do with what they're putting out, but they put subtitles on it, and then someone who doesn't know better thinks, oh, that's what this person does that works. Right. And it's like, no, that's nowhere near accurate. But yeah, I could see how movies, they have to dramatize things, guys.
Yeah.
They have to make it,
Yeah, they do, and it's.
But
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, hearing the stuff is bad enough. Yeah. You don't need to see it. I mean, it's, and then you have to, like you said, once you're finally done with this incident, that was hey, an overdose or something bad has happened, an accident, whatever, and then the next call you get is, oh, I lost my keys. Can you send someone? Can you call a locksmith or?
Yeah.
No, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, like, I love the dramatized point of movies and stuff. Like, I think it adds a good point to some of this stuff. But yeah, no, the reality of it is it's a hard job, and it is, sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's angering. Like, you have a mix of emotions, but you cannot even deal with those emotions. You
Let
have to
that carry over into.
you have to disassociate so quick and just go from one to the next. Like it's as much as like talking someone, because our dispatch center is what we call EMD certified, so we're emergency medical dispatching. So a lot of dispatch centers, I don't know how many, obviously, like, but they'll, as soon as a medical call comes in, they transfer it to like an AMR or like an emergency, someone who does that, which sometimes they don't even answer, but so you have to like dispatch it to another facility that's like contracted to do that,
I didn't
right?
know that.
Yeah. Well, which is part of the reason why, which is part of the reason why I love, I came back to my original dispatch center, and it wasn't like a bad blood type of thing. Like I left because I thought it was going to be like more money. And then my old dispatch center, they started, raises were coming in, and then it was like I don't have any.
It's all about the dollar, baby.
Yeah. So and then it's just like at the end of the day, I was happier where I started.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that I came back, and I still work with and talk with a lot of people from my old, old dispatch center in Johnson County. So and they're great. I have nothing. It was great. I learned a lot in Johnson County because they're so close to Indianapolis. So it's like,
you're dealing with the
the flood over and
it's so well, you've been doing it for 6 years. How is the technology, like the headsets and stuff you got? Because I know, like, I was talking to one of the older dispatchers, and she was like, we didn't have, like, we had like the old map thing, and like, it's a paper map, and it's like now with you talking about how you were trying to look at the layout of the mall and making sure, like, hey, this store's here and how many people are with you. Do you guys use a lot of, like, I don't know, I mean, obviously technology's came a long way. And now, and then, like, you can see where the officers are, well, their car anyway, right? You can see where they are, and that's nice to.
And EMS, fire, like, we can see the apparatus is what we call it. So, which it's not always correct. So, like, I always tell new people, even though you see them in this spot on the map, let's go ahead and verify that location, because location is everything when you're dispatching. That's the number one thing they drill into your head is location, location, location. And it's important, because if I have a 911 call coming in from the north part of our county, but they have an emergency in the south part of the county, but all I did was geo-verify that 911 call, I'm going to be sending units north. It's a completely different response, different units, things like that. So verifying that address is very important to make sure that I send the proper response to the correct place, so those people, can potentially get the help they need.
So you're using GPS, you're using
and the same thing goes for officers too. Like, if you're on if like an officer is like, they're on a traffic stop and they're like, hey, I'm at this road across, their cross street is like 2nd and 3rd. Let's just use that as an example. I'm at 2nd and 3rd. What if your AVL is hitting at like 4th and 6th? Like, what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can't go off your AVL because I have to go off of what you're telling me. And sometimes it's a great tool to have, and it does come in handy, especially like if there's a pursuit. We can, like, I'll follow the unit on my AVL and make sure that, like, all right, I know they're heading towards 2nd, so can we get officers over to 2nd to help?
You're thinking ahead.
I'm trying to think ahead. Yeah. I'm not always good at it because there's so much that happens so fast. And,
well, I mean, you got other things to manage, and like you said, I mean, talking to people on a headset and talking to people that are I don't know, sitting next to you. I mean, listen, I'll tell you what, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I'm sure it becomes like second nature, but then it's also like just no, I didn't know that. I know the general public didn't know that. And I mean, it sounds like, so you've been, is it 13 years you've been in this I guess, like,
first responder type
law enforcement. Yeah, man, that's a long time.
Which it's hard for me to, like, sometimes I don't even say that because, dispatchers weren't even, I don't even think they're acknowledged nationally as first responders. I know state.
I thought they were.
I know state we are, or it's federally or something. I don't know the technical terms, but Indiana they recognize dispatchers as first responders, but there's a lot of.
Well, I don't know. I don't. Yeah, to me, it's like, listen, response doesn't just mean physically. I get that thought process, but also it's like, I mean, I can't emphasize this enough. Like listening to some of those calls, man. It's just. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's traumatizing, and you have to, like you said, you have to compartmentalize it, and then you
Yep.
have to stay calm because you don't want to get hyped. You get hyped up, you're gonna get everyone else hyped up because
Yeah.
the information is not coming. They're the officers and the medical, the paramedics and fire department, whomever, they're getting the information from you guys. And what's that saying? It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah,
If
but
you're over
also
there, oh my
like,
God,
yeah, if I can't understand you, and that's the thing is like, I'll try to tell people like, sir, ma'am, I can't understand what you're saying. I don't know where to send. I need to send you help. Like if you're wanting us to send you help, I need you to take a deep breath. And it's hard for me to, on your worst day and your worst moment, for me to say, calm down. But essentially, that's what I have to do. I have to be like, all right, I need you to take a deep breath. I need you to try to stay calm for me. You
Do
know,
people get mad at you when you say,
absolutely.
hey, I need you? Yeah, I can imagine
like,
that.
The
Like, oh
fuck
my
you
God.
telling me to calm down? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Oh man, they get so mad, and I sympathize or empathize. I guess a little bit of both with
Yeah.
it because it's they're going through something traumatic. Some people are like nonchalant, like, yeah, if I just shot my brother in the arm, and we're like, oh, okay. That
You're almost
escalated.
freaking out now because you're like, you're not
Yeah, that
freaking out.
escalated
That's not
quickly,
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know, like,
Just shot my brother
yeah,
in the arm.
there was a call. I remember I was not working dispatch at the time, but there was a call where there was like it was a big murder case that happened in the county, and the guy was on the phone, and he's like, I'm staying on the phone because I don't want anybody to think I did this. I know how those shows told. So it was like, oh wow, okay, but
I know how those shows
yeah,
work.
but ultimately,
I watch Law and Order SVU.
exactly, but
Yeah,
that was
man.
that was a horrible day for him, and he was very calm, and you could tell he was a little worked up, but he, like, just listening back to recordings, he was calm, and he was like, I'm not stupid. I didn't do this. I came home to this. I didn't do this. Like, and then ultimately it caused him to have a mental breakdown, and he ended up going back and, like, I think burning all the, like, couple homes down in the area. So
Nice.
yeah.
It's a good way to deal with it.
Yeah. I was not a dispatcher at that time, so this was all part of my training and learning. So this happened years ago, but
Well, I feel like a lot of the training is probably baptism by fire because, I mean, yeah, there's only so much they can expose you to before, here you go.
yeah,
Take calls and
Yeah.
deal with this and deal with that.
yeah,
And like you said, you just, man, that would be the thing to me is like, you don't know when that phone rings or, you know, when you guys get a call, like you don't know what it's going to be.
you don't know, like,
It's a box of chocolates.
right? And we have people that call in on the admin line, like our non-emergency line, that call in and they're like, yeah, I've got so and so over here overdosing on heroin. Okay, this is 911 emergency type stuff that they're calling on admin, and we can't get a GPS, and we're like, where are you? And they're like, oh, somewhere over here. No, like, we need to save this person's life, and you are causing us, like, not to.
Sounds almost like they're like, maybe he'll die if I delay my. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's.
Well, they're so afraid of getting in trouble, and, like, I get it. Like, you guys are probably sitting there doing drugs together, but let's save a life here. Like, let's send the proper response. But
Yeah, live to. You know, I don't know, man. It's which, I mean, now Narcan is so widely available. It's like, carry that stuff with you if you're gonna do that stuff.
Oh yeah, and they tell us on the phone, we have Narcan. We use two rounds of Narcan, and before officers or EMS even show up, so we have to, like, notify the.
At least that's good. At least they
Yeah.
have a chance. You know, the person overdosing has a chance.
Yeah.
You know, but well, I don't know how long we've been sitting here jaw jacking. Probably at least 45 minutes or close to an hour.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have anything else. I wanted to cover.
A little bit of everything.
Both of those, because I didn't know you came over and you told me this, and I was like, oh shit. So
Yeah.
like I was telling Derica, the mortician, I'm like, 3 days from now I'll think of something and be like, why did I not ask her that? And like, dang it, but it's all good.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else. I'm trying to think, but yeah, it's a tough job. I mean, I know that
We're forgotten about a lot. Like, when you see incidents that happen on the news, the last thing they mention, sometimes don't even mention at all, is dispatch.
no, they might say officers were dispatched to, and it's
Yeah.
like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the person that did that. And I really, hey, listen, I have faith that my podcast here one day
Yeah.
is going to gain traction, and people are going to be like, I don't know, I could upload this thing and it just blow up. Who knows? That kind of makes me scared, but
You never know, and
just
people
kidding.
might want to know more, and they're going to be like, "Hey, have this
person
come,
back on.
come
Yeah,
back
and hey, listen, I tell all my guests, if you ever want to come back,
yeah.
come back.
Well,
and,
I'm honored, honestly. Like,
oh no, listen, I'm just a chump with a couple of microphones and cameras. My main goal was to have people that share their experiences or stories. It's like a time capsule, and then like, you know, your kids or your family or your friends can watch this.
yeah.
And you know, it's just a cool thing. And I listen. No, the honor's all mine to do this, because I'm not the one that's in the guest seat talking about all these different things. I mean, it's something I've been wanting to do for forever. And I was like, man, you know, if I could just get a system down and have, you know, no, I'm when you reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I didn't even like. I really just wanted to be like, "Hey, I'm proud of you."
Yeah. Well,
like,
I appreciate it.
Do this, you know, and like I was telling your wife, I was like, I never thought his response would have been like, "Oh, absolutely, come, because I was like, "Oh, hey," like just as a buffer. "Oh, hey, if you ever want a dispatcher," but I had no idea. I've never done a podcast.
I have so many A-list celebrities lined up that I just don't have time for you.
You
I'm
play
sorry.
too much. Stop.
I know. Well, I don't want to interview celebrities. I don't want to interview. I don't like. I just. Who was it? Oh God. I can't remember. I was talking to one guy, and he knows someone that was in a few movies. He's been in some big roles, but he's like, hey, he would probably, he's reachable.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want to. I just don't. Like, I don't know, man. It's like they have a publicist that tells them, hey, you can't talk about this. You can't talk about that. It's like, obviously I want to respect my guests. That's my first and foremost thing. But it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to talk to real people, man. I don't want to talk to, oh yeah. I can't watch Jimmy Kimmel. I can't watch Jimmy Fallon. I can't watch. Some of it's entertaining. Some of it is, but then there's times where it's just like, man, I have to turn it off. I just can't.
Yeah, because you don't know what truth you're getting from a personality, things like that. Like, I understand. I mean, and this is, you know, the stories of society. To me, whenever I saw the title, I was like, genius, because you're getting the nitty gritty of some of the dirtiest jobs of some of the people who have had, like, I've had a lot of trauma experience, not only with my job, but in my personal life. And people don't realize that, like, even though I have a job to do, serve the community, you know, help with CPR instructions over the phone, or help save a life, or send police, send fire, at the end of the day, I go home to my trauma and my struggles and, you know, dealing with things like that. And sometimes people forget that we're human. Like, we are people too, you know.
Yeah, you're not a robot.
No,
that they're just like screaming at. But you are a punching bag, and not you are. These people can't contain themselves, so they're screaming, they're yelling, or they're angry, or all the above. And you're the one that's like, okay, dude, we got to sift through the emotion, and we got to get to where you are and what the problem, you know. But yeah, it's just, man, I don't know. I think that for lack of a better way to put it, yeah, I couldn't think of a name. I was like, I wanted something that would kind of just, yeah, that's what it is. It's people that work in society, you know, you, me, whoever else that comes in here and sits down, and that's what I wanted to do. So
yeah, keep going. I'm so grateful just to be here and say I you know, I've always enjoyed talking with you, and it's so relaxed. It's easy. You just, you know.
Yeah, I've had you're probably I've got a guy that he was just like born and raised in LA, and he was telling me all these crazy stories, and I'm like, hey. I was like, hey, you wanna do a podcast? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, what? He's like, what's the vibe? And I said, two people having a conversation. I don't like have any punchlines or any script. Like, there's podcasts that's purely scripted, the whole thing. From start to finish, it's scripted. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If that's, you know, they're obviously probably way more successful than I am. But I don't know. I was like, no, dude, I just want to hear because he moved to Indiana, and he's like, dude, he's like, it is so quiet.
Right.
He's like, it literally. He said I was outside at like 1 a.m. It's just like, and he said L.A. It's call them ghetto birds. The helicopters flying over.
Oh my gosh!
People screaming, people yelling, drunk people. I mean, it's just it's Los Angeles. I mean, you'd have to live in like. I think it's like Brentwood. You have to live in like one of these Malibu. You have to live in one of these really exclusive, wealthy neighborhoods to get peace and quiet at night. You know, and it's like, no, dude. He said it's always something. And then when you get in your car and you want to go to the grocery store, it takes you 3 or 4 hours because of traffic. And then you get to the store and it's like you never know what's going to happen. And it's like,
yeah.
But anyway, so he was like, no, I was like, no, it's just people.
Right.
I don't ever want to take myself serious, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to be. If this thing starts causing me stress, it's like, all right, time to box it up. Yeah,
I get that. I don't. You want to have fun with it, but you also want to be successful. So there's a point of the seriousness, like where it needs to kick in.
Yeah, I mean, I put effort into it,
right?
But it's also like.
But sitting here shooting shit, I feel like
man, it's great.
It is. I honestly, and I could talk about dispatch for hours. Honestly, I love. It's part of what I do. I go out and I speak at events. I go do presentations and stuff. I help with recruiting for our center. And I take pride in that. So I could sit here and talk for hours, and I have a million stories of different calls that have come in. So if you ever want me to come talk about things, I will. There's no shame in that. I'll sit here and talk with you all day, but.
We could probably do a second part where it's literally. I mean, like I said, I don't want to impose on. It's and the older you get, have you noticed the older you get, you're like, man, I love. You know what, man? The best plans are canceled plans.
But for real, someone texts me to cancel, I'm in bed within seconds. Yes. Yeah, no, I get it.
And it's like, man, I don't know. Now I will say when it comes to this, I haven't had anyone like flat out cancel on me.
Right.
God, if Derek is watching this, man, dude, she'd be like, we would almost get a date down, and then it was like trying to catch a mouse.
Oh my gosh, I watched that interview, and when she was talking about taking that needle up through, I was like, no way, that is like I was so interested in it.
She is the just talking about guests in general, but like and I don't know, it's because she's been doing it for I think she said 10 years. I don't know, man. She's got like that. She's got that whole vibe to her, but and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like she's creepy. She's just she's blunt and she's very just like.
You gotta be with something like that.
I mean, but.
I think law enforcement, first responder, anybody in the realm of having to deal with, like. Death, anything like that. There's a small part of you that has a dark sense of humor. Because you cope with it in a way.
Yeah,
it doesn't make it right, doesn't make it okay. But everybody has that moment where they're like, "Ooh, I should not have joked about that."
Well, the harsh reality is, I mean, sometimes when people die, and I don't mean like, I don't know. Well, I'll just say this: my aunt made a joke about her husband. She was married to for like 50 years. Mm-hmm. He died in 2022, and God, he had a heart attack. So he was eating breakfast, and he choked on this like sausage biscuit, and then she slapping him on the back, and she got it out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "I need water," and those were his last words.
Wow.
He raised the glass, and she said he fell on his face, just boom. Massive heart attack.
Oh
dead.
My gosh.
The coroner and the pathologist, they said he was more than likely he was dead before he hit the floor. He was standing up, and he's like, "I need water," and she handed him a glass, and it was over. But she's like, "That biscuit must not have been very good." I'm like, Jesus Christ!
I shouldn't laugh at that.
No, but I mean, she's trying to make light of it because I mean, it's almost like it was going to happen either way. He had been feeling unwell and stuff, and but I mean, and she doesn't just like joke about it. I mean, I know she misses him a lot, and
you have to make light of the situation.
But she goes, yeah, and they're from Alabama, so she's got that real southern. She goes, I guess he didn't like that biscuit. I was like, oh my God, Aunt Omi, that's her name, Omi.
Oh my gosh.
Well, listen, I'll let you get out of here. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you so much.
And that was another. This is episode, I think, 6. So, all right. Well, let me do my little. Well, I appreciate it. I'm gonna do my little spiel. I don't know. I'm not gonna do the like and subscribe thing. I just don't.
You'll get to that point.
It's played out.
Hey, like and subscribe. I'll do it for you. Like and subscribe.
There you go.
Yeah.